Hello there, very good evening and welcome to Primetime News on TV1 for the News First, where the people come first. I'm Martin Satyanesan.
And I'm Mariam Gunamijaya. We start off with a look at the headlines for tonight. Government to temporarily seize all civilian firearms. Indian External Affairs Minister Dr. S. Shankar meets President, invites President Anurag Kumara to visit India. Second day of talks between the President and the IMF highlights government's commitment to people's relief. Nomination process for general election begins. Ranil's alliance to contest under gas cylinder, SJB under Samagi Jana Sandhanaya. Election Commission reinstates fertilizer and fishermen subsidies.
On to those stories in detail. The Ministry of Defence has instructed that all firearms and ammunition issued to civilians for personal protection must be temporarily surrendered to the government.
In an official statement issued this evening, the Ministry of Defence explained that this measure is intended to allow for a review process and subsequent return of the items.
All license holders have been instructed to surrender their firearms and ammunition to the Sri Lanka Naval Base in Valisara by November 7th. Upon surrender, a copy of the receipt must be submitted to the reception of the Civil Security Department near the main gate of the Ministry of Defence. The Ministry of Defence has warned that failure to surrender firearms by the 7th of November will result in legal action under the Firearms Ordinance. The directive does not apply to firearms issued by the Ministry of Defence for property protection, agricultural safeguarding or sports purposes.
India's External Affairs Minister Dr. S. Shankar extended an invitation on behalf of Prime Minister Narendra Modi for President Anurag Kumara Dissanayake to undertake an official visit to India.
During a one-day official visit to Sri Lanka, India's External Affairs Minister Dr. S. Shankar paid a courtesy call to the President Anurag Kumara Dissanayake earlier today. Expressing his delight at being able to visit Sri Lanka, coinciding with President Anurag Kumara Dissanayaka's new term, the Indian minister warmly congratulated the President. Dr. Shankar also conveyed the well-wishes of Indian Prime Minister Narendra Modi to President Anurag Kumara Dissanayake and discussed ways to strengthen India-Sri Lanka cooperation across various sectors. According to the President's media division, the Indian minister clarified India's interest in supporting Sri Lanka's tourism sector as well as investment, power and energy and the dairy industry, assuring that India would provide full support for Sri Lanka's economic recovery. Dr. Shankar emphasized the potential to leverage India's vast market to enhance Sri Lanka's economic revival. Expressing gratitude for the financial assistance provided by India during Sri Lanka's recent economic crisis, President Dissanayake reiterated his commitment to continuous cooperation with India. The meeting also focused on mutually beneficial areas including the fishing industry and national reconciliation. Dr. Shankar extended an invitation for President Dissanayake to visit India soon, while the President invited Prime Minister Modi to join him in Sri Lanka on a future date. Meanwhile, the Indian minister also met with Prime Minister Dr. Harini Amarasuriya and the Minister of Foreign Affairs Vijitha Herath for discussions. Indian External Affairs Minister Dr. S. Shankar, who arrived in Sri Lanka on an official visit, also met with former President Ranil Wickremesinghe. The former president conveyed his confidence that the new government will uphold the strong relationship with India throughout his tenure.
Meanwhile, the Indian External Affairs Minister engaged in discussions with former opposition leader Sajith Premadasa of the Samagi Jana Balawegaya. This meeting was held at the official residence of the Indian High Commissioner in Colombo. During the meeting, Sajith Premadasa briefed the Indian minister on the various challenges the country is currently confronting. He expressed his heartfelt gratitude and respect to the Indian government for the substantial assistance it has offered in aiding the country's recovery from its state of bankruptcy. Sajith Premadasa also urged the Indian External Affairs Minister to continue extending additional support and cooperation for our country in the future.
President Anurag Kumara Dissanayake expressed his government's intention to provide relief for people while broadly agreeing with the objectives of the IMF program. He expressed these views during a meeting with the International Monetary Fund delegation in Sri Lanka at the President's office today, marking the second day of talks.
The meeting at the President's office saw key representatives including Director of the IMF's Asia Pacific Department Krishna Srinivasan and Senior Mission Chief Dr. Peter Brewer in attendance. During the meeting, both parties deliberated on necessary measures to mitigate potential delays associated with the third review of the ongoing program with the IMF. The President's Media Division said that President Anurukumar Dissanayake underscored in yesterday's discussions his willingness to commit to the program's goals and agreed to discuss the alternative approaches proposed by the Sri Lankan government. The statement from the PMD indicated that a supportive and amicable environment was effectively fostered during these discussions. The series of discussions, which spanned 3 days, successfully concluded today. Meanwhile, the International Monetary Fund and Sri Lanka have agreed on the importance of continuing to safeguard and build on hard-won gains that have helped put Sri Lanka on a path to economic recovery since entering one of its worst economic crises in 2022. Krishna Srinivasan, the director for the Asia Pacific Department, in a statement said that the IMF is encouraged by the authorities' commitment to continue the reform efforts. He said that the IMF remains a steadfast partner in supporting Sri Lanka and its people and stands ready to assist the country achieve its economic reform goals. He added that the IMF team will continue its close engagement with Sri Lanka's economic team to set a date for the third review of the IMF-supported program.
A national airline is like an ambassador carrying the country's flag to the world. What has happened to our national airline which holds such value?
And what has happened to our country? Today, we seek answers to these questions on part 3 of our series of segments, What Happened to Sri Lanka?
What happened to Sri Lanka?
Air Lanka was the most prestigious airline in the country. In 1998, approximately 44% of the company's shares were sold to the renowned Emirates Airline. Following this, our national airline was rebranded as Sri Lankan Airlines. By the end of 2007, Emirates decided to withdraw from the Sri Lankan Airlines. This decision was influenced by an incident where the highest-ranking official in the government at the time pressured the airline to delay a flight from London in December 2007, leading to the cancellation of the CEO's work permit. A few months later, in 2008, Sri Lanka repurchased the shares previously owned by Emirates. At that time, the Sri Lankan Airlines Group reported a profit of 4.899 billion rupees. The group included not only airline operations but also Sri Lankan catering, ground handling and cargo services. What happened to the national airline after the 2008 acquisition? After the repurchase, Sri Lankan Airlines began to incur continuous losses. The annual losses in billions of rupees were as follows. 2009, 9.996 billion. 2010, 6.034 billion. 2011, 0.202 billion. 2012, 17.208 billion. 2013, 26.857 billion. 2014, 31.365 billion. 2015, 16.329 billion. 2016, 12.083 billion. 2017, 28.339 billion. 2018, 18.585 billion. 2019, 41.7 billion. 2020, 44.139 billion. 2021, 49.704 billion. 2022, 163.583 billion. 2023, 71.306 billion. These figures are extracted from the company's annual reports and clearly illustrate the extent of the losses. What happened to an entity that used to generate profits? After the reacquisition in 2008, the company was led by a relative of the highest-ranking official in the country. Several actions taken by this individual, a relative of the topmost important person in the nation, were documented in a report by the Presidential Commission of Inquiry, appointed by the Good Governance government to probe serious fraud and corruption. These actions included the changing of destination of a flight from Kuala Lumpur to Katunayake on the 22nd of January 2014. providing catering for a rugby tournament organized by a relative during 2013 to 14, supplying food and beverages for artists attending a presidential election rally on the 19th of December 2014, paying a special efficiency allowance to a flight attendant, departing a flight to France on the 26th of January 2014 before the arrival of 75 passengers, paying fuel allowances for the vehicles of the then Minister of Civil Aviation from the 27th of July 2011 to the 22nd of November 2014, and using vehicles without legal ownership. The Commission recommended filing charges for corruption, conspiracy to commit corruption, and criminal misappropriation. However, no significant actions have been taken to date. Another major issue was the aircraft purchase deal that contributed to the current state of the company. In 2012 to 2013, a proposal was made to replace 13 aircraft with 14 new Airbus planes. Sri Lankan Airlines signed agreements to purchase 6 A330s and 4 A350s from Airbus. A subsequent investigation by the UK Serious Fraud Office revealed that a senior official at Sri Lankan Airlines was promised a bribe of $16.84 million, of which $2 million was paid. Based on this revelation, the CID conducted an investigation leading to the arrest and remand of several suspects who were later released on bail. The COP in Parliament continued to investigate this notorious Airbus deal, uncovering more irregularities, including the involvement of an advisory firm without proper procedures. After the government change in 2015, another $98 million was spent to cancel the Airbus purchase deal. These events, along with continuous losses and problematic transactions, illustrate the challenges faced by Sri Lankan Airlines. Despite the changes in government in 2015, which promised good governance and anti-corruption measures, the company continued to suffer. The new administration appointed a friend of the highest-ranking official to lead the company, and the brother of the official's advisor became the CEO. This led to further mismanagement and significant losses. The CEO, initially appointed for 6 months, was later made permanent despite opposition from the board. He eventually retired, demanding 6 months' salary with taxes and a year's worth of airline tickets to Australia. These are just a few examples. There are many more instances of mismanagement and corruption. The Good Governance government paid a company named Newsfirst to conduct a thorough investigation into Sri Lankan Airlines, and there are additional details about transactions for aircraft maintenance. The previous government sought to sell the company, and a party was selected for this purpose. However, despite the airline operations incurring losses, the ground handling, catering and cargo services of Sri Lankan Airlines were profitable and well managed. These profitable segments should be carefully considered before any sale. It is also worth noting that the last minister in charge made derogatory remarks about the national airline, including the mention of mouse, while seeking a buyer for the company. Sri Lankan Airlines is highly regarded globally, with its pilots, crew and engineers being among the best in the world. The problem lies not with the staff, but with the policymakers responsible for guiding the company. The losses incurred by Sri Lankan Airlines are not just a corporate issue, but also affect the Ceylon Petroleum Corporation, as it supplies fuel to the airline. The most serious concern is that these losses are covered by the Treasury, which means they are ultimately borne by the public. While the company suffers losses, a few individuals have benefited. The Presidential Commission, COP, CID investigations and board decisions over the years provided ample evidence of what has transpired. The Good Governance government's Valiamuna report also needs to be examined. Those who destroy the national airline and misappropriated public funds, as well as those who appointed and protected them, must be held accountable. It is crucial that those responsible for the destruction repay every cent and are held accountable for their actions.
What happened to Sri Lanka?
In some news we just received, Sri Lanka says that consultation process with the country's official creditor committee and the International Monetary Fund was successfully completed. Issuing a statement, Sri Lanka's finance ministry said that Sri Lanka is pleased to announce that following the agreement in principle, that is the AIP, reached with representatives of its international and local holders of international sovereign bonds on the 19th of September 2024, the Sri Lankan authorities have now completed their consultations with Sri Lanka's official creditor committee, that is the OCC, and the IMF regarding the compliance of the AIP terms with the comparability of treatment principle and the parameters of Sri Lanka's IMF-supported program. Now, the Finance Ministry also adds that formal confirmation has been received from the OCC that the terms of the AIP as it stands are compatible with the COT principle. The authorities have also received confirmation from the IMF staff that the AIP terms meet program parameters under the Extended Fund Facility Arrangement Second Review Macro Framework when considered in conjunction with the restructuring of official claims in line with the terms agreed with the OCC and China Exim Bank in June 2024. Well, in other local news, the Executive Director of the Centre for Society and Religion, Reverend Father Rohan de Silva, requested the President to disclose the previously undisclosed sections of the report submitted by the Presidential Committee established to investigate the Easter Sunday attacks.
Reverend Father Rohan de Silva visited the President's office and the Ministry of Public Security, where he delivered several letters outlining a number of unresolved issues.
අපි දැක්කා විජිත හේරත් ඇමතිතුමා ඊයේ පෙරේදා කියනවා පාස්තු විරදින ඒ මහා ඛේදවාචකයට යුක්ත.
Minister Vijitha Herath recently said that actions are currently being taken to uphold justice for these Sunday attacks. In response, we decided to submit a document today that includes the facts outlined in our initial letter as well as the actions we propose to take now and in the future. In this letter, we reiterate our request to disclose the previously withheld sections to the public, a request we have been making since the time of the Aragale. We are making the same appeal to this President. Please make all of those sections public.
කරපු අරගලයත් එක්ක අපි හඳගාලා කිව්වේ මේ පාස්තු විරදින ප්‍රහාරය සම්බන්ධව තියෙන වෙලුම් ඔක්කොම එළියට දාන්න කියලා. ඒක අපි ආපහු ඉල්ලනවා මේ ජනාධිපතිතුමාගේ කරුණා කරලා ඒ වෙලුම් ටික ඔක්කොම ජනගත කරන්න.
ඔබ වහන්සේලා මේ දැන් වෙලුම් ටික නැවත වතාවක් ජනගත කරන්න කියනවා. දැන් මේ ජනගත කරන්න කියපු වෙලුම් ටික අතුරුදහන් වෙලා කියලා මාධ්‍ය වාර්තාපතේ අතුරුදහන්. මේක ගැන මොකද කියන්නේ?
මම හිතන්නේ අතුරුදහන් වෙලා තියෙනවායි කියලා අපිට දැනගන්න.
When Ranil Wickremesinghe was in power, a team was appointed to investigate Channel 4. I believe it is that report that is now missing. There are also rumors suggesting that the sections containing the recorded statements are unaccounted for. I understand that retired DIG Ravi Seneviratne is currently in charge of that division. I trust that he will work on this and locate the missing sections of the report.
Biography detailing the political life of former President Maithripala Sirisena was unveiled in Colombo today.
The book, titled Sihina Anonymia, is the authorized biography of former President Maithripala Sirisena. It was compiled by a team led by Dr. Ganga Rajini Disanayake. The former president presented the book to the Mahasangha.
මාව දැන් අවුරුදු 7කට 8කට ආසන්න කාලයක් බරපතල ලෙස නින්දාවට අපහාස සහ අසත්‍ය ප්‍රචාරවලට ලක් කළා මාව ඉතාමත් පහත් කොට කතා කරන අය ඒගොල්ල මේ අද පොත ගැන බලාගෙන ඇති මම
Those who have subjected me to serious insults and falsehoods for nearly 7 to 8 years will see this book today. I want to clarify that there is not a single word in this book regarding these Sunday attacks. This book will be released in English with additional details about these Sunday attacks in a few months. The English version will contain more facts. I want to answer those who claim that I was involved in these Sunday attacks and was aware of what was happening, that I didn't care for the country or the people. To those who said that I let helpless people die, if I had any awareness or connection, the name of this book will be Maithripala Sirisena, Sihina Anonymia, instead of Maithripala Sirisena, Sihina Anonymia. Because of that, I had a dream, and to pursue it, I left the government in 2014. I served as a president for less than 5 years, but during that time, I was unable to fulfill my dream for the sake of the country and its people. I served for 5 years without a government or an opposition. I'm not sure if any leader of a democratic country has faced a situation like this, but I worked very hard. I believe that I could have achieved my dream if it weren't for the Easter Sunday attacks. That is why I titled this book as The Unfulfilled Dream. I won't say no more about it for now. Even today, I endure insults and condemnation. No one has faced such insults after leaving power. Just a week ago, someone reading the morning newspaper made comments about me that were completely irrelevant. They suggested I should take my own life. Let me be clear. There's no one in this country or the world who can push me to that point.
බලයෙන් ගියාට පස්සේ මෙහෙම නින්දා පහස විඳලා නැහැ. සතියකට ඉස්සෙල්ලා උදේ පත්තර කියවන කෙනෙක් කියනවා මං ගැන කියලා මාව කිසිසේත් අදාළ නැති දෙයකට අරගෙන කියනවා දැන් එයාට තියෙන්නේ සියදිවි විනාශා ගන්න එක විතරයි කියලා මට කියනවා. මම සියදිවි විනාශා ගන්න ඒ තත්ත්වයට මාව යවන්න මේ රටේ තියා මේ ලෝකයේ කිසි කෙනෙක් නැහැ.
The road near the temple trees, which had been closed since 2005, was reopened to the public today. This reopening extends from the Michael's roundabout in Colombo to the section leading to Uttaranand Mavata. In more news, Vietnam hopes that the Sri Lankan government will keep creating favorable conditions for the Vietnamese people living, working and studying in the nation. This was discussed during a meeting between the Vietnamese ambassador and the Prime Minister.
Vietnamese ambassador to Sri Lanka, Trinity, met with Sri Lankan Prime Minister Harini Amarasuriya, during which she affirmed that Vietnam always attaches much importance to the traditional friendship with the South Asian country. Vietnamese media VNA reported that the Vietnamese diplomat highlighted that the two nations have enjoyed sound ties between their parties, states and parliaments, hoping both sides will step up mutual visits and contacts at high level. The ambassador has also said that she wishes that the Sri Lanka government will keep creating favorable conditions for the Vietnamese people living, working and studying in the nation. She also took the occasion to convey Vietnamese high-ranking leaders' congratulations to Sri Lanka on its successful organization of the 9th presidential election on the 21st of September, expressing her belief that under the leadership of President Anurukumara Dissanayake, Sri Lanka will overcome difficulties and challenges soon, continue stable development and become an attractive destination of tourism, trade and foreign investment. The report added that the Sri Lankan Prime Minister acknowledged the ambassador's recommendations on facilitating the importance of Vietnamese goods, encouraged Sri Lankan businesses to land investment in Vietnam and working closely to organize cultural exchange activities to mark the 55th anniversary of the diplomatic ties.
Sri Lanka decides.
The acceptance of nominations for the general election began today. Nominations will be accepted at district secretariats until noon on the 11th of November.
Nomination activities related to the 22 electoral districts across the country will take place at 22 district secretariats. Starting today, nominations will be accepted during working hours until noon on the 11th. Nominations will not be accepted on weekends.
Chamarana Kandala, the General Secretary of the Parapuraka Bale Organisation, an independent group contesting the general election, submitted nominations today at the Colombo District Secretariat.
We hope to change the political culture, especially by shifting public perceptions regarding the independent groups through a new political approach.
The Janasatha Front submitted nominations today at the Vaunia District Secretariat. Currently, 86 independent groups have deposited their bonds for the general election. According to the Election Commission, 28 independent groups deposited their bonds yesterday.
Political parties are not required to deposit any nomination fees. However, independent groups must deposit 2,000 rupees per candidate at the relevant district secretariat. Deposits can be made at the district secretariats until noon on the 11th. The Election Commission of Sri Lanka has approved providing fertilizer for the 2024-2025 Maha season, relief for fishermen and the additional payments for pensions scheduled to be paid in October, including the September arrears. This approval was issued in a statement signed by Chairman RML Ratnayaka, emphasizing that these measures are necessary to ensure the smooth and efficient functioning of public administration and state services. The statement also advised the public not to believe false claims suggesting that these benefits would not be provided. The Commission highlighted that any recruitment, promotions, transfers or limitations involving state-owned institutions or statutory bodies during the election period must receive its approval to prevent misuse of public resources.
Well, former Minister Manusha Nanakara says that the preparation of nominations for the general election under the gas cylinder symbol has begun. However, some parties that supported the gas cylinder symbol at the presidential election have not made their final decision yet. Now, just a reminder that the nominations will be accepted until the 11th of October.
Various parties visited Ranil Wickremesinghe's presidential campaign office located on Flower Road, Colombo, for yet another day today, engaging in discussions from time to time. These discussions included a group of former parliamentarians who supported Wickremesinghe during the presidential election.
ඔබතුමාලත් එක්ක හිටපු ගොඩක් අය දැන් අන කප් එකකින් යන තීරණයක් කරා.
නෑ නෑ එහෙම එකක් නෑ. හැමෝම අපි එකට යනවා.
දිනේෂ් ගුණවර්ධන ඇතුළු පිරිසක්?
නෑ කීප දෙනෙක්. ඉතින් එහාට මෙහාට වෙනවද දන්නේ නැහැ. හැබැයි ඉතින් අපි
ඒගොල්ලෝ මේ දාලා ලිපියක් දාලා මේ වෙනම යනවා කියලා. දැන් ඔබතුමාලත් එක්ක කවුද ඉන්නේ?
අපි හිටපු ගණ්ඩායම බොහෝ දෙනෙක් ඉන්නවා. අපි කියන්නේ නාමය වෙන හදන ගමන් ඉතින් නාමය වල හදලා ඉවර කරලා එපා කරන්න.
පුටුව මොකද ඒ කට්ටියක් පස්සේ
දන්නේ.
පුටුව එන්නේ නැහැ වගේ නේ. නෑ නිදාස් පස්සේ.
ඒගොල්ලෝ එකට හිටියා අපිත් එක්ක.
හිටියට දැන් නෑ.
මම හිතන ඉන්නවා. බලමු අපි සේරම කියන්න. ඒ කියන්නේ ගෑස් සිලින්ඩරෙන් ඉල්ලනවා. නෑ එහෙම අර්බුදයක් නෑ. මුටි ගෑස් සිලින්ඩරෙන් ඉල්ලනවා.
කාංචන විජේසේකර එහෙම ඉල්ලන්නේ නැහැ කියලා කියනවා.
නෑ ඉල්ලනවා.
ඔක්කොම ඉල්ලනවා.
ඒක තමයි මම කියන්නේ බොරු
දැන් අගමැති කවුද?
අපේක්ෂකයා. මේ වෙලාවේ ඉතින් අගමැති අපේක්ෂකයෙක් ගැන කල්පනා කරන්න ඕනේ. ඉතල මන්ත්‍රී දුරට ගිහිල්ලා අරගන්න ඕනේ හරියට.
හරි. ගැටලුවක ඉන්නේ නේ.
නෑ මේකක් නෑ.
නැද්ද?
ඉතින් ගැටලුවක් කියන්නේ ජනතාව තීන්දුවක් කරගෙන තියෙනවා. එයාට අපි රජයේ වැඩ කටයුතු කරගෙන යන්න බොහොම බලාගෙන ඉන්නවා එයාට කරන්නේ. අපි අපේ දේශපාලනය අපිට
හරින් ප්‍රනාන්දු මහතාත් සමුගෙනද දේශපාලනය?
නෑ නෑ එහෙම එකක් නෑ.
ඔබ කිව්වේ ඊයේ ශ්‍රී ලංකා නිදහස් පක්ෂයේ එකඟතාව පළ කරා සිලින්ඩරෙන් ඉදිරිපත් වෙන්න කියලා. නමුත් ඔවුන් තාම මේ ඉදිරිපත් වෙන තීරණයක් ගත්තේ නැහැ කියලා තමයි කියන්නේ.
පක්ෂයේ නායකයෝ නිමල් සිරිපාල ඇමතුමා ඇතුළු පක්ෂයේ නායකයෝ මහින්ද ඇමරිවරයා ඇමතිවරයාත් එතන හිටියා. ඊළඟට අනුරයාපා ඇමතිවරයාත් එතන හිටියා. ඒ සියලුම කණ්ඩායම් එකඟතාවය පළ කරා ගෑස් සිලින්ඩරෙන් එන්න. නමුත් විවිධ අදහස් එළියේ තියෙන බව අපි දන්නවා. ඒවා සමාලෝචනය කරගන්න පුළුවන් වෙයි කියලා අපි විශ්වාස කරනවා.
The Sri Lanka Freedom Party has decided to contest the general election under the gas cylinder. Party chairman Nimal Siripala De Silva announced that this decision was made during the Central Committee and Politburo meeting held this afternoon.
අපි සන්දානගත වෙලා සියලුම අපට එකතු කරගන්න පුළුවන් පක්ෂ ඔක්කොම එකතු.
We have decided to form an alliance with all parties that are willing to join us and contest under the gas cylinder symbol. But this decision is specific only for the upcoming general election. We hope to contest the upcoming local government and provincial council elections under a new alliance led by the Sri Lanka Freedom Party with the chair symbol. Our aim is to build a strong opposition and fulfill our role effectively.
ගොඩනංගලා විපක්ෂ භූමිකාවක් කරගෙන යාම තමයි අපේ බලාපොරොත්තුව.
What will be the decision of the Samagi Jana Sandhanaya led by the Samagi Jana Balawegaya in the upcoming general election?
The Samagi Jana Balawegaya is the main party with several alliances including Samagi Jana Sandhanaya operating under its umbrella. Therefore, our leader Sajid Premadasa along with the leaders of other alliances is frequently engaged in discussions. As you know, when it comes to nominations in politics, expectations can vary across different districts. However, we must reach a common agreement on a single number, whether it be 15, 16 or 18. Up until today, there have been no conflicts regarding this, nor have there been any disputes in any district. The formation of the list is currently underway.
Former MP Professor Ranjit Bandara held a media briefing today and expressed views on the preparations of the Sri Lanka Podujana Peramuna for the upcoming elections.
අපි මොනම හේතුවක් නිසාවත් කාගේවත් අඩුපාඩු හොයන්න සූදානම් පක්ෂයක් නෙමෙයි.
We are not a party that finds faults with anyone for any reason. We are committed to correcting our mistakes and are prepared to compete in the upcoming elections by overcoming all barriers. The former parliamentarians of the SLPP are coming together. That is the truth.
පෙළ ගහලා ඉන්නේ. ඒක තමයි ඇත්ත.
දැන් ඔබතුමාලා මේ වෙනකොට ඔබතුමාලාගේ ඡන්ද පදනම 2.5%යි. මම නිවැරදි නම්. නෑ මම මෙහෙම කිව්වේ නෑ මම කිව්වේ සංඛ්‍යාත්මකව.
In a world where access to clean drinking water is often taken for granted, a stark contrast exists just a few hours away from the bustling urban centres of Sri Lanka. A rural school in Bulletin stands as a stark reminder of what many still face. This is their story.
In the heart of Bulletin, nestled among sprawling fields, is the Navagathegama Mahavidyalaya, a school that holds the dreams of about 500 students. For years, the village relied on contaminated wells, leading to serious health issues, including alarming rates of kidney failure among students. Parents watched helplessly as their children fell ill, burdened by the constant fear that something as essential as water could harm their loved ones. Then the Gamatha movement stepped in, recognizing the urgent need for change. With the support of Sri Lanka Navy's technical expertise, they initiated a project to bring safe drinking water to the school. Financial contributions from Mr. Piyasena Surige and Mrs. Soma Baduge from Ganemulla were crucial in this effort, providing the necessary funds to implement a water purification system. Their generosity sparked hope in a community that had felt overlooked for too long.
Gamadda belongs to both you and I. If it weren't for Gamadda, we wouldn't be able to complete this project. We chose the right path, and because of that choice, you and I both win. Now both parties are happy.
මේ ලස්සන තිබුණු රට අවලස්සන වෙලා තියෙනවා. නමුත් එක දෙයක් වෙනස් වෙලා නැහැ.
This is a beautiful nation, but decades of incompetence and corruption has left us where we are today. But through it all, one thing remains unchanged, and that is the spirit of the people of Sri Lanka. When we unite, there is nothing we cannot achieve. We have proven that. That is how Gamadda was created, by you, the people.
අපි බෙදුන් නැත්නම් අපිට මේ රට ලෝකේ අංක 1 රට බවට පත් කරන්න පුළුවන්මයි.
This project is not just about water. Gamadda had restored a sense of dignity and security to a community that had felt forgotten. They had shown the villagers that their voices mattered, that their struggles were seen, and that change was possible. Gamadda, for the people, by the people.
Newsfirst, with the people.
Pathfinder Foundations launched the Sinhala translation of the India Way Strategies for an Uncertain World in Colombo today.
The Sinhala translation of the India Way Strategies for an Uncertain World by Dr. S.J. Shankar, Minister of External Affairs of the Government of India, was launched in Colombo. The decade from the 2008 global financial crisis to the 2020 coronavirus pandemic has significantly transformed the world order. In the India Way, Dr. J. Shankar analyzes these challenges and proposes possible policy responses. He places this thinking in the context of history and tradition, appropriate for a civilizational power that seeks to reclaim its place on the world stage. The single translation of the book, The India Way, is a publication by the Pathfinder Foundation, translated by Ajit Parakum Jaisinghe. The original publication was undertaken by Delhi-based HarperCollins Publishers India Private Limited, from whom Pathfinder Foundation obtained the license to translate the work into Sinhalese language and print for distribution free of charge.
The Colombo International Shoe Fair 2024 is being held in Colombo.
The Colombo International Shoe Fair 2024 will be held from the 4th to the 20th of October. This year's event promises to be bigger and better than ever, showcasing a wide array of footwear from local and international brands. The fair has launched a new website and exciting new online shopping platform. Sirasa TV is the electronic media partner of this event.
In some international news, Israeli airstrikes on Lebanon are intensifying, with massive blasts reported in southern Beirut.
Caused large explosions in Beirut, including one close to the international airport during a further night of airstrikes targeting Hezbollah. The airport borders Dahi, Hezbollah's stronghold in the capital. Plumes of smoke could be seen over the city on Friday morning. The blasts came after fresh evacuation orders came from the Israeli military for civilians living near buildings in Dahi, as they are located near Hezbollah facilities and interests. More evacuation orders for areas near a building in the Hadat district also came later. US outlets citing Israeli officials reported the target was Hashim, a cousin of Hezbollah's former leader Hassan Nasrallah. Meanwhile, Iran's supreme leader Ayatollah led the Friday prayers in Tehran for the first time in nearly 5 years. It began with commemorations for Hezbollah leader Hassan Nasrallah, who was killed in an Israeli airstrike last week. In its latest operational update, the Israel Defense Force said about 20 rocket launches were detected from Lebanon this morning. It said most of the rockets were intercepted, with the rest falling in an open area. Lebanon's health ministry said that 37 people have been killed in Israeli ground and air attacks in the past 24 hours, taking the total death toll to more than 2,000 since last October.
Finally, in your sports news, South Africa emerged victorious with a comprehensive 10-wicket win against the West Indies in their Women's T20 World Cup match held in Dubai.
The South African team won the toss and decided to bowl first. West Indies managed to score just 118 runs for the loss of 6 wickets. Captain Hayley Matthews, along with Kiana Joseph, opened the innings for the West Indies. Their opening partnership was of just 15 runs, with Hayley scoring 10 and Kiana being dismissed for only 4. Stephanie Taylor remained unbeaten at 44 runs and was the highest scorer for the inning. Deandra Dottin scored 13 runs. Chasing a target of 119 runs, the South African inning was opened by Captain Laura and Tasmin Brits. The West Indies bowlers were unable to break their partnership, and South Africa coasted home, with both openers scoring half-centuries. Captain Laura achieved the first half-century of the tournament with an unbeaten score of 59 runs. This marked her 12th T20 half-century. Tasmin Brits reached her 13th half-century and was unbeaten on 57 runs. South Africa reached the winning target in 17.5 overs for the loss of no wickets. You can catch all the live action of the tournament on TV1 and www.sirasatv.lk.
And that we bring to a close this edition of Primetime News on TV1.
Thank you very much for watching. Good night and take care.
Good night.